table if you want to take them. Both of them from the Hadar Institute, which is a fantastic and growing educational institute. One is called the Magid Map. We all talk about the 15 steps of the Seder, Kadesh or Chatz, Karpas, Yachatz, but nobody ever has, that I know of, has mapped out just the Magid. Every paragraph, every section of the Magid is on here, and it actually has an idea for in one sentence it tells you what that paragraph or that section is, a few questions that you might ask, a conversation topic, and it goes on to the next thing. And it's fantastic. If you did everything on here, you would be up until 7 a.m. I don't recommend that. Been there, done that, not doing it again. But I do recommend this resource as a quick review of all the different sections of the Magid. It is fantastic. Yes, it was designed more towards youth education, but I gotta tell you, there's really great stuff. The other, much more deep and I would say in-depth, is every year, twice a year, Hadar puts out a booklet, once at Rosh Hashanah and once at Pesach, with very, very deep, well thought out essays on big topics on the holiday. And I highly recommend this. Not necessarily for your Passover Seder per se, but services are long. There we go.
Rabbi, Hadar, also the organization that runs the group meeting that I just participated in.
Hadar is the organization, I'm saying this for the people who are online, I'm just repeating, that Hadar is the organization that runs the Beit Din, the Moot Beit Din, or the Beit Din competition, the Halacha competition. Rabbi Pachter is the, we don't say coach, we say the advisor. Is that the technical term?
Well, since we won, you can say coach.
Oh, since he won, we can say coach. He's the coach. They actually were able, they had enough students from Franklin Jewish Academy to have 2 teams, and one of those teams came home with a first place trophy in a halacha competition. On one of those teams was one of our congregants, Ryan Reinstein, again, Yesher Koach, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. What was the topic? You told me, I wanted to just...
The topic was artificial intelligence. It was when is it morally or logically acceptable to bring in driverless taxi service to a small town with potential to put the taxi drivers out of work? Are you allowed to do that?
Can you bring in driverless taxis, automated cars, to a small town that would then put the taxi drivers out of work? Halachically, ethically, from Jewish law. If you want to hear the results of that, Rabbi Pachter will be holding court at Kiddush. Yes! Oh my gosh, yes! 100%! Nobody's going to hear a word I say, and that's okay. In 4 more days, we, along with Jews around the world, are going to sit down to engage in the single most observed ritual in the Jewish world. There have been many PhD papers and articles written about why this is the most observed holiday in the Jewish world, which, without being arrogant, I actually think I can answer very simply. Duh, if you feed them, they will come. Why do you need a PhD paper to say that? I don't know. Jews come because of the food. And this ritual, Passover, the Passover Seder, is all about food. In fact, it's the food itself that actually facilitates the ritual. Without food, there is no ritual. One might go so far as to say that it is the ultimate Jewish ritual. But today I want to ask a deeper question, not why it's observed, but why we do it. What's the primary mitzvah that we must accomplish to fulfill the Seder. What is that primary mitzvah? What do we have to do? As we make our way through the Magid, the central section of the Seder, where we tell the story of liberation, we come to a statement by Rabban Gamliel. Rabban Gamliel states, Kol shelo amar shlosha dvarim elu bepesach lo yatzeh yedei chovato. Anyone who has not said these three things on Pesach has not fulfilled his obligation. Ve'elu hen, Pesach, matzah, umaror. Pesach, the Paschal sacrifice, the matzah, and the maror. What comes after this well-known line from Rabban Gamliel? The Haggadah proceeds to tell us that we are to either raise up in the air or point to the matzah and the maror, and the point to the shank bone. Each of these specific food items, we then go on to explain their meaning and how they help us tell the story of liberation. We say, Pesach al Shuma, Pesach, the Paschal sacrifice, why do we do it? And then we go on to talk about the Paschal sacrifice. And then we say, Matzah al Shuma, for what reason? And we go on to tell it. And Maror al Shuma, and we go on to tell it. But wait a second. Wait a second. There's a major issue. Rabban Gamliel said one thing. And what we actually do is something totally different. Rabban Gamliel said, all we need to do is say Pesach, Matzah, Maror. But what do? We don't eat it in that moment, but we actually grab it and raise it up and say, here it is, or we at least point to it. He said, all we have to do is say it. Pesach, Matzah, Maror, done. I said it. But no, that's not what we do. So why do we have to have these things on the table? Because of the next line in the Haggadah. The next line in the Haggadah says, Bechol dor vador chayav adam lirot et atzmo ke'ilu hu yatsa mimitzrayim. In each and every generation, a person is obligated to see him or herself as though they themselves left Egypt. It's not enough to tell the story. The mitzvah of the Seder can't be completed until we experience the story. There have to be props. Where's my prop manager? She's not here. What? She's in the Bahamas. Sorry, that doesn't help me. That really doesn't help me. It's gray outside, it's cold, and she's in the Bahamas. Okay, whatever. There has to be acting, there has to be devices, such that even for a moment you can see yourself as being part of the story. And the story begins with a prop, a piece of food that is essential to the arc of the story. The story begins with this. In the traditional Haggadah, every single element of the 15 steps of the Seder has words that are associated, that all the participants say, except for one. There's one step of the Seder where the participants, other than the leader, doesn't say anything and doesn't even do anything. With the washing of the hands, we do something. Every person does it. With the eating of the meal, every person does it. Da-da-da-da-da. One thing is rushed through. When we get to the fourth step of the Seder, Yachatz, we're told that the leader of the Seder is to remove the middle matzah and break it in half. They then put the smaller piece back in the holder, the larger piece is wrapped up to become the afikomen, and we move on to the first words of Magid. And that's it. But that's where the problem is. You see, the arc of the Passover narrative, it takes us from slavery to freedom, from oppression to redemption, and from brokenness to wholeness. This very act, the act of breaking the middle matzah, allows us to begin to tell the story, because it's the breaking of the matzah that allows us to see brokenness in the world. The pain of not being whole, the horror at being separated from the rest of ourselves. The matzah, that middle piece of matzah, begins the evening as one beautiful, whole, complete sheet. And then, with the flick of a wrist, it's broken in half and hidden away. And it's not until the very end of the story that, if we're lucky, do we ever get to see that piece of matzah again, whole, complete. It's not until we've gone through that journey from brokenness and slavery and oppression to freedom and wholeness and completion. It's not until then that that matzah is reunited with its other part. But it's even deeper than that, my friends. The word that's used for the stage of the Seder where the children search for the afikomen is called tzafun. Okay, tzafun. Now, I always thought, and maybe I was wrong, I always thought that the word tzafun was connected to the word litzpot, which means to scout out, like Har HaTzofim is Mount Scopus. The scouts, the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the scouts in Israel are called the Tzofim. I always thought that tzafun was related to scouting. See, Rabbi Pachter, I should have asked him. I should have asked him years ago. Oh, wait, don't take, that's the next line of my sermon. You can't take it. You just can't do that. Oh man, I gotta watch what I say, you know. There's a better explanation that Rabbi Pachter was about to take, you know. Back in the beginning of Exodus, we read that a certain member of the house of Levi went and took into his house a woman from Levi, and the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw how beautiful he was, she hid him. Ve titz penehu. Titz penehu, tzafun, from hidden. She hid him for 3 months. And when she could hide him, hitzpinu, no longer, she got a wicker basket and caulked it with bitumen and pitch. She put the child into it and placed it among the reeds of the bank of the Nile. And his sister stationed herself at a distance to learn what would befall of him. And the Torah, in describing the hiding of the child, twice uses this verb, tzadik, pei, nun, to denote the child's hiddenness. This is the only place in the 5 books of Moses where this verb is used for hidden. Can it really be coincidence that the Haggadah uses this root verb, tzadik, fei, nun, to label the hidden matzah? Just like Moses is hidden, is wrapped and hidden away until he reappears much later in the Seder when it's time to leave Egypt and lead the redemption? Is it just an accident that the smaller piece of broken matzah, like Aaron and Miriam, remains sandwiched between the other matzot, which can symbolize the collective Jewish people, separated from the larger matzah, which they originally were one family? Clearly, the hidden one, the larger one, the one who symbolizes redemption, is none other than Moses, the hero of the story, who is all but absent from the Haggadah. His siblings, Aaron and Miriam, the smaller ones, remain with the Jewish people. They're the glue that holds the family together. Moses is absent. He's the middle matzah that's broken off. My friends, without the brokenness that comes from yachatz when we break that matzah, without hiding the redeeming piece of matzah, and then allowing the next generation to find it, we don't have a story. This week saw the Jewish people in Israel broken apart, not in 2 pieces like the matzah, but much more. There was pain, there was fear, and we here in the diaspora watched with the massive amounts of frustration and anxiety as it seemed that Israel was tearing itself apart. Yet, I read an article I mentioned briefly in my email that said that Rabbi Daniel Gordis points out that 6 weeks ago, if you had asked most Israelis what kind of Independence Day we're going to have, they would have said a pretty poor one. The country was depressed, the verge of becoming an illiberal democracy or a non-democracy, a pariah in the Western world. And now, things could change. Bad things could happen. But he says we witnessed one of the greatest weeks in Israel history because you saw almost no violence. You saw signs that were dripping with anger and irony, but no one hung an effigy of Benjamin Netanyahu saying they were going to hang him up. There were no pictures of politicians being burned. There was no looting, not one incident of looting. They busted through the barricades and blocked traffic on the highways. But if you want to win, and they were determined to win, they had no choice. Research shows 100% law-abiding protests get nothing done. Martin Luther King understood this when he crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge on March 9, 1965. The trick was to break the law to build something better, not break the law as a way of breaking the country. My friends, as we prepare for our Seders, let us understand the importance of experiencing the brokenness, not just telling it. Let us embrace the pain of the reality that the Jewish people are still broken and the world is broken. But the afikomen itself has not been destroyed. The possibility of redemption, it's hidden. And we must do all we can. We must do all we can to empower and embrace the next generation, however they are, wherever they are. Because they are critical. Without the next generation to find the broken shards, we can't build a whole again. We can't heal. We can't repair. And they will lead us to find what is broken, and they'll lead us to a new sense of wholeness again. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.